What's up, everyone? I'm Smashley, and in this video we're going to talk about validating illusions. If you are new here, smash that like button, subscribe, and leave me a comment below. On this channel we talk all things spiritual awakening and being on the divine path to unlock your infinite potential. So I've recently had some experiences that have made me dig a little deeper into this concept about validating illusions. And I joined this school group by someone that I follow on YouTube. And on the first live call, I was asking about so-called others and validating their illusion of victimhood. And the person immediately just said there are no so-called others. And she just redirected me to a higher perspective without validating my illusion of the human perspective that I was speaking through. And then I just was on another call with the person who actually runs the YouTube, his YouTube group. And I asked him how he handles that in his coaching practice, if he will validate people's current perception, like where they're at, and meet them where they're at in their consciousness. And he said that he chooses not to have those conversations and to interact with those people that are in lower consciousness. So I just want you to keep that in mind. If you feel like something's wrong with you, if you won't meet people where they're at in their consciousness, you get to choose how people show up in your reality. They say to command that only people from higher consciousness appear in your reality. And if these so-called others do appear in your reality that are in lower states of consciousness that want your compassion and validation of their victimhood, you don't have to interact with that. You don't have to validate that reality. But do it from a place of love. Because you know, I'm source, you're source, we're all source, right? That is source perceiving reality through the illusion of the human perspective, through the illusion of victimhood. Their consciousness hasn't reached the point yet where they understand that they created their reality. And everything is a reflection, right? So when these people appear on the screen of your consciousness in your physical reality, ask yourself, what is this reflecting back to me? The illusion of victimhood, if it keeps appearing in your reality, is there anywhere where you're still holding on to victimhood? I know I am. From my false little illusion of a wounded inner child that was victimized by certain family members. That energy is still in my system somewhere. And so being able to take our 3D experiences and what's showing up in front of us as a reflection of what's still inside of you, and being able to sit with it and integrate it and alchemize it from a higher state of consciousness without validating the illusion. I'm working on this myself because I realize that I lack compassion and empathy from people that are seeking validation of their victimhood. And we don't have to validate that illusion. We can have compassion and empathy for where they're at in their consciousness, but still choose, no, I choose that people from higher perspectives appear on my timeline. I choose to interact with people in higher perspectives. Because when you meet people where they're at in their consciousness, you're actually disempowering them. Through the human perspective, it looks like you are helping them where they're at. But that's not helpful. It's ultimately not helpful in the grand scheme of what the goal of, or the purpose of life is. The ascension process, the return back to source. So when you're validating people's victimhood and offering them compassion and empathy through the human perspective, you are keeping them stuck in a lower state of consciousness. You are feeding their ego and strengthening their identity as a false character. I don't want to do that. If I can't help you expand your consciousness and see from a higher perspective because you refuse that perspective, then there are billions of other people that can validate your illusion of victimhood through the human perspective. Right? So I declare that I only attract people who are in higher consciousness or who are open to receiving wisdom from a higher consciousness. And I realized this when the woman on the call, the first call, on the second call, she said, I realized my response to you was rather harsh. And I did too when I had that first call, and she just immediately shut down my perspective. And I was at first triggered by it, and I was like, oh, wait a second. She was giving me the higher perspective and not validating my illusion of personhood in that moment. And that's what I really want. Ultimately, that's what I want. I don't want my illusion to be validated. I want the higher perspective. So I said, no, I was very grateful for your harsh response. It was very helpful to me because it redirected me to the higher perspective. And sometimes when you're redirecting people to the higher perspective and not validating their current state of consciousness or their perception of victimhood, their illusions, and all of that, you can come off as harsh and kind of like an asshole. And that's what the leader of the group said, that he knows some people perceive him as an asshole because he won't validate their illusion. So understand, this is just what comes with the territory of expanded consciousness. All right, and a lot of people don't want to accept that because then they feel like they'd be a bad person. You're not a bad person. Okay, we have to accept that these are aspects of the human experience. All aspects of the human experience are valid. We can offer love and compassion for where they're at in their journey without validating their illusion, and with knowing that ultimately your intention is good. Your intention is the best. You want what's best for them, which is expanded consciousness. You don't want to enable victimhood and enable their illusions anymore. And that's what you ultimately are doing. When you're helping people in the human perspective, you are enabling their lack of growth and expansion. So just some things to keep in mind, things I'm going through right now on my journey, because I wouldn't say this person made me feel, because that's false, right? I feel like something's wrong with me because this other person was basically in our interactions saying like, oh, we're definitely on different paths because I won't validate victimhood. Which, yes, we are definitely on different paths because I will not disempower you. When you validate victimhood and illusions through the human perspective, you are disempowering someone's expansion. So if you feel like something's wrong with you, that's the reflection you're getting, sit with that, because that's ultimately something that's stuck in your field. So I'm grateful for that reflection. I won't blame her for making me feel that, because I know that's already within me, and that's why I chose her in our soul contract to reflect that back to me. So always ask yourself, what is this reflecting back to me? And when you are in contact with people who want you to validate victimhood or validate illusions through the human perspective, you don't have to do that. You don't have to feel bad for not doing that either. And if that's how you feel, sit with it and process it and redirect yourself to the higher perspective. Redirect yourself with people who will keep you in a higher perspective. Surround yourself, whether that be, if you don't have these people in your physical life at the moment, find them online. People who will not validate the illusion and that will always redirect you to a higher perspective, so that you understand that this is part of the evolutionary process. All right, you're not the only one going through this, okay? So, I mean, you couldn't be experiencing it and then look around at people in more expanded states of consciousness and realize they're all doing it too. So, this is part of the process, okay? No more victimhood through the illusion of the human perspective, all right? You don't have to validate any illusions, and there's nothing wrong with you. If you like this video, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.